Hello, my good human. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Luana Rose, and I talk about all things nervous system health, relational health, and healing trauma. And this video is actually a two-parter. It was getting too long, so I decided to chop it into. We are talking about the ways that you can know the attachment style of the person you're dating. So in this part of the video, we're going over the markers or red flags, if you will, on how to determine what attachment style the person you're dating may have. Disorganized, avoidant, or ambivalent. So these attachment styles, everyone kind of views attachment differently. These attachment styles in this video are inspired by Dr. Diane Poole-Heller's book, The Power of Attachment. So if you like what you're seeing, go read her book. I'll link it up below for you. First of all, please don't make any snap decisions after watching this video in regards to the person that you're seeing or getting to know. It's designed so that you can have a big picture and broader understanding of attachment styles, specifically insecure attachment styles in this video. And at the end of the day, if someone that you're seeing has one of these secure attachment styles or you see these patterns pop up, it's not a be-all end-all. Really, it's an opportunity for growth if that individual is open, willing, and keen to work, learn, and ultimately embody secure attachment within themselves, for themselves, and for the togetherness of the relationship, of the romantic relationship. So really, at the end of the day, the bottom line is, even if there is an insecure attachment style, you can learn the skills and have the awareness and education to embody secure attachment and be successful in any relationship. And as you probably know from watching part 1 of this video, don't be afraid to ask the person you're getting to know questions and getting to know their background of how they learned relationships and how to be in relationships. Even if someone doesn't have the terminology of attachment theory, right? It doesn't mean that they're not willing, keen, and open to embodying and committing to learning secure attachment. Definitely doesn't mean that if they don't have the terminology. But the action and the committed willingness obviously needs to be there for ease and fruitfulness to be in the relationship long term. Let's start off with avoidant tendencies. Here are some potential markers for an individual that has an avoidant attachment style. When you say your needs, whether that's emotional, what you need in a relationship, or even if it's like, hey, I need the person I'm dating to be on time. When you say you're going to be there, I need you to be there. If the individual receives that need as a problem or receives it as, well, that's just too much, then it's most likely they could have an avoidant tendency, because folks with avoidant tendencies really believe that they can take care of themselves, and their needs are kind of more internal. Everything that I need, I'll figure out on my own. And of course, all insecure attachment styles and tendencies are a survival strategy. So make sure you stick around on my channel to watch more videos on survival strategies, because it's not about finding a fault in one attachment style or the other. It's at the base, it's a way we've learned how to survive and adapt. Another one for avoidant attachment styles is they need lots of space. Sometimes they just drop off the radar. You've been texting quite consistently, and all of a sudden they kind of go AWOL, or I don't know if people say that. They go kind of blank for days or even weeks. Like avoidant attachment folks are professionals at ghosting, right? That's an extreme. The avoidant person will also, when there's more intimacy and you two are getting closer with each other, getting to know each other, instead of intimacy building more intimacy, it'll actually do the opposite. More intimacy will actually make them go the opposite direction. and they can come off as being closed off or withdrawn after more intimacy. And that doesn't even necessarily have to be physical intimacy. It can just be sharing more of yourself over dinner and just talking, and that will kind of get them to run the other way. It could be for a few days, or depending on their awareness levels and willingness to work on it, it'll show up. Avoidant markers: regularly dismissing the person they're dating or finding fault and being critical, especially if the fault is directed in your direction, the person that's watching this. If you find you're on the receiving end of the fault, whether, a reservation for dinner got confused, or there was a little mess up there, and it's your fault, it's not just a thing that happens sometimes, that's an indicator for avoidant attachment. They idealize ex-partners or future partners. So looking at the ex-partners after breaking up, they'll feel a sense of relief because the pressure is off their attachment system. Their physiology doesn't have to work so hard. And they'll be able to look back at that ex-partner with love and connection that maybe they weren't able to access when they were actually within the relationship. So when you're listening, having those conversations, that is something to listen for. When imagining or talking about a potential future partner, there's some unrealisticness going on there. There's some fantasy, and because they're not in the trenches of an actual relationship, there's a disconnect between reality and what a romantic relationship should look like, the perfection within there. Because as we know, romantic relationships can be trenches and can be beautiful sunsets, depends on the day of the week. But someone with an avoidant attachment style will kind of have this illusion that it should be easy. And that brings me to conflict. They won't deal with conflict in a positive way. Oftentimes it'll be a complete shutdown of the physiology, and they'll have to maybe kind of go to the gym for a few hours, or go watch, binge watch a TV show before they can actually come back and face repairing the conflict. And then again, if the person has an avoidant attachment style, initiating that repair will actually be really hard for them. So these are all some ways that we can kind of note the markers for an avoidant attachment tendency. Moving on to markers for ambivalent tendencies, the ambivalent attachment style. So this person will have quite a hard time at the beginning of the relationship with trusting. They're always going to be looking for loopholes or information or proof that you're more interested in someone else, or they're not good enough in some way. They don't fit the bill, even if it's totally not true and you have your eye 100% on them. The ambivalent individual will express in verbally or body language, most likely, that there's a lack of trust and ability to really lean into the relationship fully, because it just takes longer for them to trust that person actually wants to be there for them. So that they'll be regularly looking for evidence of either infidelity or abandonment, which leads to my next point of being habitually insecure or clingy. And the ambivalent individual or human with those tendencies will be hyper-focused on the person they're getting to know rather than on themselves. So it's kind of the opposite of the avoidant in that sense, where the avoidant is focused internally and doesn't pay much mind to externally. The ambivalent will be hyper-focused on the person they're dating and forget about their own needs and essentially self-care, which is my next point. A person with ambivalent tendencies can have struggles with self-care because they're often externally focused rather than internally focused, or having that nice balance. Which leads me to my next point of caretaking. The ambivalent individual because they're hyper-focused externally, they will look for ways to take care of the other person, so it leads to this dependency rather than looking internally and actually doing some nice self-care. Another marker for ambivalent tendencies is for the individual to seemingly become sad or feeling hopeless or depressed for no apparent reason. That's because in childhood, the ambivalent person, they never really knew when they would get the attention and care from the parents. Sometimes it was really great, sometimes it wasn't there, so there's this kind of confusion or gap between that consistent, secure base. They may ignore your caring behavior. They may kind of be elusive to it. So even if you are consistently there and doing kind gestures, they won't really see that because, again, it's a survival protective response that developed early on in childhood. So the marker is not being able to see and appreciate the care that is in the relationship. They may talk excessively. Talking is a way that we maintain connection. So an ambivalent person could have that fear of separation. So talking excessively a lot, right, can be a way to help that connection stay connected and stay put. And lastly, they may have a hard time getting over ruptures from the past, and they may be stuck on them or dwell on things that happen in the past instead of actively looking for a solution in the present moment. Things to look for possibly disorganized attachment tendency. Here are some markers. So swinging, as my dog swings and shakes, swinging from the avoidant things that I share, the avoidant markers, to the ambivalent markers, and swinging quite periodically, that is a marker for that disorganized tendency, because it is disorganized. It's kind of here, there, all over the place, like a potpourri. Sometimes this person will need extreme closeness and want to be really close. Other times they'll push you right away, hold you at arm's length, become very defensive and dysregulated. Having that dysregulation in their nervous system is something that they've learned to live with, and it will show up, of course, in the romantic relationship. It'll be magnified, right? This person could experience triggers that come out of nowhere. So they'll have these volatile bursts or responses that seemingly come out of nowhere. This is another, if you have been with me on my channel for a while, it's a dysregulated nervous system, and disorganization, dysregulation, they kind of go hand in hand. There may be this increased feeling of terror. And we can see that in a person's kind of face, their body mannerisms. As you get more intimate and get to know each other more, terror can come up and can really hold someone back in feeling safe. So, of course, after a while, we don't want to be in an unsafe place. So these people will really find that they'll want to be drawn into connection, but it's scary, so they leave. So listening to their history within romantic relationships can be a good marker for understanding that part of their experience. When triggers do come up, the individual could feel confused, not knowing how to move through, confusion and fogginess, because in childhood, one of the indicators for disorganized attachment is the caregiver is the safe place, supposed to be, and also the threat. So, of course, that would be confusing for a little human, a little person, of having the same person be a safety and threat. So later on in romantic relationships, it shows up, right? Therefore, the freeze response or fawn response is very much a marker. And this person could, have trouble finishing their sentences. They just trail off, they lose their thoughts easily, or they have to kind of completely disengage from the connection for sometimes days or weeks in order to feel more like themselves. These are markers for disorganized tendencies. The bottom line of this video is, if you can see what's coming, patterns, tendencies, then you will be more empowered to make the right choices for you. And at the end of the day, that right choice, no matter how insecure that special someone you're getting to know is, that right choice could really be having an honest conversation and obviously seeing that they follow through on it. Is, are you willing to work on embodying more secure attachment if you're seeing these attachment styles come up? Because at the end of the day, any individual can learn the skills and embody a sense of regulation, ease of connection, and security, which is the essence of secure attachment. Thanks to neuroplasticity, any individual who's keen and open and willing can do this. So make sure you go ahead and watch my video, how to create secure attachment for yourself. It's linked below. If you've watched this far, I think you're gonna like that video, and it gives you some very practical, easy ways to start getting those skills on board for yourself. Because of course, we need to take care of our side of the street before we start not judging specifically, but analyzing other people and their attachment styles. So this is a way that you can take care of your side of the street and really learn how to embody a sense of security. So thank you so much for being here. Make sure you go and watch that next video. It's linked below. If you like this video, make sure you're subscribed, those notifications are turned on, and comment below if you learned something new. Thank you again, and take good care.